Call the Vermilion County Council meeting for April 10th to order.
Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, Mr. Costello.
Here.
Mr. Somerville.
Here.
Mrs. Brown. Here. Mrs. James, I'm present. Mr. Weir.
Here.
Mr. Bose.
Here.
And Mr. Brown.
Here.
Thank you. All right, first item we have is approval of minutes. We have minutes from our March 13th, 2023 meeting. Is there any additions or corrections that need to be made to the minutes?
I think maybe the top, should it be March 13th?
Yeah, on the top line, it said February. Additions changed. The numerical dates, right? Yours says that?
Oh. Mine does.
Oh, no, right here. In the writing. Is there anything else anyone saw? Is there a motion to approve with the correction?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All right. I have a motion from Mr. Brown, a second from Mr. Bose to approve the March 13th, 2023 meeting minutes as changed. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, state no.
And I abstain.
Okay, you were here.
I wasn't here.
All right, minutes are approved. All right, next we have the treasurer's report. We have the monthly treasurer's report and also the interest report for March of 2023. Are there any questions regarding it? Having none, we'll move on. We also have the comp time report, and we've been getting this quarterly. So we have a comp time for the first 3 months of the year. Any questions regarding or comments regarding the comp time?
The one that was paid out, that was the person who resigned from the highway department.
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay. John Lawson. Okay. Where does that get paid from when someone?
It depends on the department. The county highway has an overtime line.
That's what I thought. I thought some departments did. If they don't, where does that? Okay. Thanks.
We do not have a maximum hours to carry over, correct?
There is a maximum.
There is a maximum.
Mhm.
160?
It's paid out in October. Yeah.
Okay.
Just the state maximum.
For what was that? For what was the question? I'm sorry.
If there's a maximum amount for the comp time hours, I'm sorry. There is a maximum amount. The state has a max, and that's what we have adopted as a county. Is the
Yeah.
maximum amount 160?
Yeah. They can adopt. The county can adopt its own, but we go by the state. So,
Mhm.
right. And it gets. You said it gets paid out.
Anything
Above it.
above the 160 gets paid out.
It's just usually highway or sheriff's department if it happens.
Sheriff's Department.
It gets paid out weekly? Okay. sorry. Does it get automatically paid out? Is that?
Yeah, so it's not approved by the council.
Uh,
Over 160
I think it's in the handbook that it automatically gets paid out after 160.
after 160.
Mm-hmm.
Should department heads be monitoring that too? I mean,
Yeah,
they
that's
should
usually
not really
in the-
allow that.
We haven't had a lot of that, I don't believe, lately, like the 161.
Yeah.
Like I said, usually the highway, like if a storm pops up, and that's where they kind of ask the highway department to try to work it down before we get to that point, but have there been very many?
We had 3 last year.
3?
I think the year before was
Okay.
And I understand that's hard for them to do sometimes when they're, you know, you have enough staff to do what you need to do, and if 3 or 4 people are on vacation, it's kind of, it makes it harder on everybody else. Good. That's all I got.
Alright. Anything else with the comp time? Okay. Well, we will move on to the additional appropriations. We don't have any transfers this evening. No? Oh, it was behind my additionals. My apologies. We do have one transfer. Public safety is asking to move the secretarial part-time of $12,850 to professional services for the same amount to cover the cost of the office cleaning. Sheriff Holtkamp was here last month to talk to us about this. This is just the transfer that he's filed.
Need a motion?
Yes.
I'll make a motion.
All right, I have a motion for Mr. Brown, a second for Mr. Somerville to approve the transfer from secretarial part-time to professional services of $12,850. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, state no. Transfer is approved. Now we can move on to additional appropriations. The first one is, we will have to do the approval. It is actually for the library, for the Vermilion County Library. There are certain instances when we have to approve things for them, and this is one of them. They're asking for additional money that they didn't budget in their general budget. They need $333,500 for a drainage project. They would like to take that from their library general fund and put it into other services and charges, and then also from their library rainy day fund, another $50,000 for the drainage project, going into the category of other services and charges. There are certain times if they don't have a board able to approve it, they have to bring it to us for the final approval. So this wasn't in their original budget, and they would like to add it. It's not county funds, it's in their own budget that they have, but we are the authoritative board that has to pass this for them.
If I recall correctly, about a year ago they came and they started a project at the library there in Newport. And we did the same thing then, but this is probably the same project. Do you agree?
I don't have the, did they bring any, oh, I'm sorry. Yes, if you would. I'm sorry, I didn't realize.
We did not ask for additional appropriations last year. Are you sure you're not?
I think that might have been.
Clinton Public
There was
Library?
Clinton Library had a roofing project.
Clinton,
Yeah,
It was
Clinton.
like $1 million
We're
or
separate
something.
entities,
I don't
so,
remember what it was.
I did send, I don't know if you've received the pictures, but I sent pictures over to Brenda. So I have a packet of pictures, but we're getting a lot of water into the building, and a lot of people are wanting to save our building. So we went to HWC and are working on getting a blueprints from them, and this is what they have projected. I've talked to Eric Smith at HWC, We actually had it quoted out last year, and as of right now, the pricing is still the same. So really, it's just your approval on using funds that we have in our general fund at the moment. I wanted to budget it out last November, but my board did not want to do that, so. And we've looked at building a new building, and once it hit the $3 million mark, the board said no, because we didn't want to have taxpayers pay more money out than what we already have in our budget. So, well, not in our budget, but in our funds, so that's kind of where we're standing right now. It's really moldy. A lot of people complain of the must and the mold, so we're hoping with this drainage project we can get the water away from the building. Because right at the moment it's draining towards the building, and they need to regrate our driveway because we're on the bottom of that hill, and grade it away from the library and then move it down to the storm sewer on Newport property. So.
Does HWC think that will fix your problem then?
That's one thing. We've also got roofing. That's a new matter.
Is that included in this cost?
It's not included in this cost right now. We're doing one thing at a time just so that we can make sure we're hitting them. This has been, I've worked there for 11 years and we've already done a project to try to fix this. And so they tried to put a barrier between the foundation and the ground, and it still just seeps in still. And the $50,000 is just for contingency costs, so if we don't need it, then we won't use it. So.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
It's Misty Bishop.
Misty. Thank you, Misty.
You're welcome. Any other questions or?
It must be somewhat of a significant project for $300,000. I mean, for drainage, it's more than just grading, I assume. But
Yes, they're going to put
so
in tile.
there must be storm manholes and different types of things that collect the water.
Right.
It's probably pretty extensive. I mean,
Yes,
I
because
hope.
right now, okay, we used to have tile in the front yard, but we had the 2 giant evergreen trees that were taken down. It's been about 8 years ago, and they're all just root bound. And so instead of running new tile through the front of the building, or in the front yard, they're gonna put a swale around the back, regrade the driveways, and then run a tile down along the neighbor's property line. In the front of the building, they're gonna run tile to that swale to run to the storm sewer.
Is the engineering fee paid for with this also? So
Yes.
And you're going to get public bids on obviously
Yes,
for something.
we're actually gonna have HWC do our public bidding,
Yeah.
and then have someone from their company do the oversight of the construction.
Okay. Yeah, the bids may come in lower
Yeah.
than what the projections are, maybe.
Right. I just took Scott's advice with the 50,000 for contingency, just in case it was above.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah. Any other questions? No?
You? Thank you, Misty. Alright.
I'd make a motion to approve.
Okay.
I'll second that too.
Alright. I have a motion for Mr. Costello, a second for Mr. Weir to approve the Vermillion County Library resolution for their drainage project funding. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, state no. Alright, the resolution is approved. Thank you for coming this evening.
Ashley, can we turn off the
Yeah, it's
airplane
hard to hear.
behind us?
Yeah. Thank you.
Sounds like we're at the airport.
Yeah. I feel like I'm in the tunnel. Sorry. Alright. The remaining appropriations are for the county. Our next one is for economic development. They are asking to put money into their capital outlay account. They have a Thrive. It was a regional matching funds for an initiative with Thrive for $3,800. They need $33,287.67 for, it was the revolving loan fund that was in capital outlays at the end of the year. When we did budgets, we cut the capital outlay account and then said if they had projects that they wanted to do to bring them back. So we just need to reinstate the remaining loan balance that they had at the end of December of 2022. The $50,000 on your sheet was just a number high enough until we got all the totals. So the actual amount is 38. Is just over 38,000. It's $38,187.63. The last item they're asking to purchase out of capital outlays is it's a called Meeting Owl. It's an HD smart video conference camera with microphones, so that way when they do virtual meetings with businesses out of town, they can see and hear. And there's the paper for that if anybody needs it. Meeting Owl? Oh, $38,187.63. There are 3 items in that total, and that is to cover Thrive, the revolving loan fund to reinstate that remaining balance, and then the Meeting Owl. So they would at least like that amount put back in there. We advertised up to 50, so.
So I'm looking at my capital outlays.
Mhm.
How much did we actually end up budgeting?
0 in capital outlay.
How much? 0?
Capital outlay.
Okay. I got too many.
1149.
I got too many scribble marks on my budget.
We don't have any in capital outlay.
This is Fund 1149.
And
That's the other thing I talked about, we'd like to separate that, eventually have our own one fund. It's one of those funds, we're just in one fund by themselves.
can we change that fund number right now? Or do you have to advertise in the fund, the actual account number too?
You can create a fund without advertising.
Because we just had to advertise because it came from the fund, like 1149. Okay, so when we do the appropriation, let's take that $33,287.63 and make sure it's in a different, it's not going to be in capital outlays, but it's going to be in a revolving loan fund account by itself.
Y'all need the fund number just so when I get the checks that are coming in.
Uh-huh.
And then I'll need that fund
Okay.
number so that they will keep it in the fund.
Brenda will get you the account numbers for that, but that way it's already done and put in a separate account.
Separate fund.
Her and I talked about.
Okay, you want a
Only
full
because-
separate
Only
fund,
because that way you track
in and out?
What's coming in
in
and
that
out.
fund.
Okay.
What went out, what came in, what went out, what came
All right,
in. That's what I said.
we're good with the advertisement.
We don't have to advertise that,
Okay, it's just the money coming out of where it came out.
but we would, it's just, should have been probably done when they first started with revolving loan.
Okay. So you'll have a fund number and a budget line item for revolving loan fund. That way it is completely separate and we can track that balance.
Well, and that way you guys can see
Yeah.
what's coming in, what's going out.
It'll make it much easier for
Exactly.
everything. So the total amount appropriation is the $38,187.63, with $33,287.63 going into a fund and separate line item for revolving loan fund. Is there a motion to approve that?
I'm still trying to figure out the paperwork here, so. Is it that easy?
There's, yeah,
This is,
this one is the total amount,
right,
and then this was the breakdown of it.
okay. Got that? This is the total amount, this is the breakdown. So it's not two different ones. Okay.
Does anyone else have questions on that one?
I'll make a motion to that.
Okay. I have a motion from Mr. Somerville, second from Ms. Brown, for the total appropriation of $38,187.63 for economic development. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed state no. Okay. Appropriations approved.
It's for 38.
Yeah, but it's.
I'm already here anyway. It feels good. Switch down to the bottom.
I can hear them.
Now I can hear you.
But, the custodian can figure that one out tomorrow.
The next additional appropriation is for the E911. It's coming from the E911 fund. It's for $3,500 for the GIS. Originally in the budget hearing, we had talked about having $15,000 in the budget for GIS come from 911. Amongst budgeting for GIS, we did not get the whole $15,000 in there. So Jimmy has stated he has no problem with it. So they would like to add that back in so that way we can get all the flyovers done for GIS.
Make a motion.
Okay.
I second that.
I have a motion from Mr. Brown, a second from Mr. Weir to approve the $3,500 additional appropriation from E911. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed state no. All right, appropriations approved. And the last additional appropriation is not, they've asked to pull that one for this evening.
Which one's that?
The economic development that was tabled. Pull it again. Yep. Okay. That is the end of additional appropriations. New business. Cumulative fund re-establishment. Scott, that has your name next to it.
So, yeah, there's a bunch of stuff like this. This is from the state, okay? State law allows for counties, cities, airports, libraries, depending on what you are, to establish these what are called cumulative funds, where you have a tax rate, and that tax rate generates cash revenues that can be spent for certain things. So some are very specific. There are ones that are allowed under certain circumstances for like jails. Mostly they have to do though with capital improvements. We have in Vermilion County 2 cumulative funds right now. We have a cumulative bridge fund and a cumulative capital development fund, or CCD fund. The rates on those funds are, I had Brenda include a little sheet with your packet, a little spreadsheet. Our current rate of Q Bridge is 0.03710. So that's 3 cents, 3.7 cents actually, per $100 of assessed value that people pay in taxes based on that cumulative bridge rate. CCD is even lower, it's about half as much. The state allows those cumulative funds. There are certain maximums. We are under the maximum for those cumulative funds. So every year they say, do you want to increase your cumulative fund rates? And you can if you want to. There's a process that we have to go through in order to do that. If you don't want to change it, you don't have to do anything. But if you do want to increase it, or I guess decrease it in theory, you would have to adopt these ordinances that would take us a couple meetings to do. and we have to advertise things in the paper, and there's a remonstrance period. So I just was playing around. My general sense is, at least in previous years, the council's been trying to keep the tax rate stable or lower, and we've actually lowered it the last 3 years in a row, I think. If you increase these, of course, you would be increasing the tax rate. Now, the good news, if you increase tax rates, right now, this year, we're gonna get $340,000 for cumulative bridge and $176,000, almost $177,000 for CCD. If you increase up to the maximum, we would get a lot more money. We'd get 1.2 million total instead of 400,000 total. So we'd increase it by quite a bit. But, of course, that comes at cost to the taxpayers, and so I ran just very basic. Right now, if you have $100,000 of assessed value, you're paying $37.10 for Cume Bridge and $19.30 for CCD. If you were to increase to the maximum, you would go $100 for Cume Bridge and $33.30 for CCD. You don't have to go to the maximum. You could go somewhere in between. It's totally up to you guys what you want to do. You can leave it the same, go higher, but that's your option to do it. If you do want to do it, we would need to start that ball rolling fairly soon, because it has to be done by the end of May. And there's all sorts of, all this you have to go through all these steps. They don't make it easy to do if you want to do it, but some places do. So they need it for whatever. It's up to you guys.
Do we need it?
It's up to you guys, Kelly. I mean, you
Saying, yeah.
know, I'm sure the commissioners would love to have more money for bridges.
Well, that's-
Our major costs come up is bridges. Culverts. We got a lot of money to spend on that, really do.
Last year, we did appropriate all they had in Cume Bridge in order to fix bridges, and we had those several washouts. So, I mean, they have used the money, but
Well, they also did a study and they're formulating, I don't know that you have it put together yet, but a process and a timeline, you know, when you would like to do those, so you can go out and get funding. And
That's
if
what
you
we're
don't
doing.
get funding, though, it comes back to us.
That's what we're doing right now. We're trying to get these bridges on replacement schedules, and we're going to the feds will call for projects to be funded at 80% instead of us paying 100%. That makes sense. So, you know, we have some stuff come through here, and we have some bad weather, and it can make a lot of damage really fast. I mean, you'll be attest to that because it happens.
I think the
I
Cume
wouldn't
Bridge
want-
budget I work with is broke right now, so we don't have any, can't
Nobody
test it
has
too
bridges.
much.
Nobody ever, the cost of fixing bridges never keeps up with the amount of money we do.
Absolutely.
Another thing I don't think you realize is in the research that we are also responsible for bridges in Clinton. And that was something that we did not know. Britain, I think, found it and brought it out, but we're also responsible for the bridges in the city of Clinton. So that's not, we didn't know that, but it is true. Is that right, Neil? You would attest to that?
Yeah, there's only two types of bridges in the state bridges and county
It
bridges.
has to be a certain width to so many 26
Any
meters.
bridge that spans 20 feet or greater is considered a bridge. Anything less than that's a culvert, even if it looks like a bridge.
we had one culvert cost more than what that bridge assessment's coming in.
Well, my opinion is we can't make that decision tonight, but something we definitely should be looking at, and very soon.
Yeah, if you want to do it, we would need to start the ball rolling
Tonight.
soon. I think, I didn't even try and go through all the steps, honestly, because there's a bunch of them, but I know it has to be done by May 31st, there's advertising that has to be done. I think it can be done in one meeting, but
This is every year you can change it, correct?
pardon me?
You can change it every year,
Yeah.
so,
And that maximum does change, it's based on growth of the levy and growth of, mostly on growth of the levy, but ours have not been changed, I don't know when, I didn't, since before me, it's been a long time, so.
if it's not something we change this evening, it is something that we could consider for next budget hearing. and then look into it for the next May cycle. Just see how it goes this year. And
Where's that capital development money go? How are you spending that?
Cume Capital Development.
There's a fund called CCD, and it
Okay.
goes into the CCD
But-
fund. I know the last big expense from it was to buy computers and software for the courthouse.
So does it need to be increased? Really?
I mean, it's up to, again, it's just like the bridges, I'm sure we could find something to spend it on.
Oh,
So,
spend it all.
It's always, there's always more need than there is, I think, money to do it. And CCD can be used, well, CCD can be used for bridges, I mean, it can be used for any
Oh,
kind of
can.
capital, it could be. It's
Okay.
capital expenses, so land,
We also used
buildings,
it.
vehicles.
Sheriff's
equipment.
cars.
That's what
In
the
the,
sheriff's was.
like
So
this year,
we-
the sheriff's cars.
I'm just wondering if we need to increase that one. I mean,
It wouldn't generate as much, but again, I'm sure when it comes time for the budget, you find something to spend.
Scott, coming back to the cumulative bridge
Bridge.
fund. Yeah, thank you. The date, if we were to do nothing this year, that expiration date for this year would be,
May 3rd.
okay, but if we wanted to do something, such as 1st of May, at the next meeting, council meeting, do we still have time to work through it?
Let me circle back and let you know that. I believe you do. I looked at it last night.
Publication to the taxpayers 2 times at least 7 days apart.
That can be our, I actually was thinking we may have to have special meetings, just
Yeah.
depends on when your meeting is, and I need to know what to, I mean, I guess I could advertise it up to the max, and then you don't have to do the max if you don't want to. I just was worried about I didn't try and figure it all out last night, how many Wednesdays there are between now and your next meeting.
Well, my quick thought, Ashley, was maybe we need to get us together and talk to a couple of commissioners real quick and just put our heads together and say, you know, what do we need to do?
Are there bridges that currently need fixed that haven't been, or haven't
Yeah.
had funding?
So the commissioners have a bridge report, right?
Including this one?
The commissioners have a biannual bridge report, and in that bridge report, there should be a complete list of the condition of every bridge. And there's probably, I don't know, yours, I have no idea how many there would be critical findings or something that would require replacement. There could be 1, there could be 20. Depends, I don't know how many bridges are in Vermilion County, a couple hundred maybe, or 100 bridge, at least 100 to say, or.
Well, I know there's one there in northern Vermilion County that's been out since last farming season, September.
I mean, up there, the wood bridge?
Yes.
We just went through that and we sent that letter in last week.
Is that the one we received the community crossings grant for?
No,
No,
that
not
was
that
the
one.
other one that's in Vermilion County,
We
northern
just,
part.
we got can you elaborate on that? What paper did we sign that day on that? Approval of the funding for the, this date, I believe.
So I think there's already 2 bridges at least that.
Yeah, I don't know if they're
delayed getting funding.
repairs or total replacements or what they are. I have no idea.
So
And that's
can-
something we can
maybe
look
we can
at.
get together and talk about it?
Yes, but that was getting ready to happen.
Okay.
That is getting ready to happen. There was some paperwork for him signed, we found it that last week.
I think it's suffice to say that whatever, if you maxed it out, you still won't have enough to do everything you need to do in Cume Bridge. So that's kind of a guide maybe that, every bit helps, but, what are the taxpayers?
Maybe we don't max it out,
Tolerate
but
it.
maybe we have a strategy that we start increasing it a little bit
build it up a little.
and build it, because I can see it being
Yeah, I mean,
depleted.
you look at this, a typical bridge, I mean, it's hard to say what's a typical bridge, what is that? Well, if you have a 70-foot span or a 60-foot span bridge, a decent sized bridge, that's well over $500,000, that's somewhere, between $500,000 and $1 million to replace that, depending on what the circumstances are. So that's just one. You don't have the one on Old State Road 63 near Hillsdale. Is that still under?
Yeah, that was, I think it's 2 years out before it actually starts. I think that was $800,000 or $900,000, and we got 80% funding on that.
Yeah. So
And that, the thing about these, when you do these bridges on these culvert projects, it's like 4 or 5 years out. You know, and we could do that, but what if something happens and we got to do it now? That's the thing you got to watch out for, because we won't have time till we need to get it done now. And we won't be able to get that. But the other thing is, last fall, we did something different in the bridge up north in District 3. You guys hear me okay, Kenny?
Yeah.
In District 3, we went to community crossing grant money, went after that. Instead of coming to you guys and asking for $500,000, we thought we'd try to get the funding for it. And Britain took care of that. We got $350,000. We got 50%, like 75% of that funded by doing that. So that is on a short time. We could probably try that. You know what I mean? For the return is quick, but when you go to call for projects, you're talking about 3 to 5 years.
yeah, like federal aid projects,
It's a long,
which are
lengthy process.
yeah, like bridges that are on federal aid routes would be part of that. It is the local projects that get you. You know, so when the county's locally responsible for replacing something, those are the big expenses there, because you don't get any help with those.
Is this money used for repairs and replacement, or
Yeah.
just replacement?
Right.
Both?
You could even use it to pay salaries for like a bridge foreman or some kind of a special team or something that works on them. If you self-perform the work or buy some special piece of equipment that takes care of the bridges, like an inspection vehicle or something, you can use it for multiple different things. A lot of counties use the bridge budget for purchasing pipes, like the corrugated metal pipes you see that may be, you know, small diameter all the way up to, 4, 5, 6 feet in diameter. I don't really know if that's a, great way to spend Cume Bridge money, but there's really no other place to buy the stuff from. And a lot of counties do that, but it does that, if you get a truckload of pipes, say, just culvert pipe, small pipe, that could be $100,000 for a semi-load of pipe, and it has nothing to do with the bridge. And if you're paying for it out of Cume Bridge, then that's a large
Another one thing
amount of money.
we're trying to look at possibilities is the cost of doing these bridges is high, very high. And I am looking at talking to engineering company about the cost versus if we had a 320 cat excavator, we went in and tore these out ourselves, the county tore it out, and then had them people come in, the contracts come in and put it back. So there might be a real substantial savings there. I don't know what that is yet. But I'm trying to figure out how we could save money. This is a major cost of these bridges, culverts. Does it make any sense to you?
No, I'm just kidding.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean, for a bridge project?
no, I'm talking about culverts.
Oh, culvert. Yeah, well, I just do the whole thing. You can do the whole thing. If you tear it out, putting it back's just as easy. I mean, you got trucks.
I think it's a good option to think about how we can utilize our own workforce and some of that.
Yeah, I mean, I've personally been involved in projects like that have saved millions of dollars over time. Well, in 1 year's time, millions of dollars worth of work with 3 or 4 guys.
We're looking at how we can save money also.
Hey, Scott, on the increments you have there, is there a minimum or maximum? You can't just take it up.
On this?
Yeah, you have to like double
The
it.
maximum is so the column over here, the maximum, that's the maximum we could go by state law.
Mhm.
This is where we're at now, is current. We could go anywhere in between. So right now, we're at between 3 and 4 cents per hundred. We could go whatever you want, 7.2 if you wanted to, cents per, or 7 cents, or whatever you wanted in between. You can always go, you don't have to go to the maximum. If you're inclined to consider increasing, what we would need to do is advertise the that you're gonna consider that at a meeting. The public would have a right to be notified about that at 10. It's a lot like the additional appropriation. We would I would suggest that unless you're really firm on something, I would probably advertise that you're gonna do the max. Only because then you can come in and lower it. But if we go to the meeting and you tell me tonight, I think we wanna do 5 cents per 100. And then you get to the meeting and go, well, I think we should do 6, guys. I'm convinced we should do 6, we can't. So, it's like the opposite of the Price is Right. You can't,
Right.
you're old enough to remember the Price is Right. So, but that's up to you guys. I mean, I was reading through, we do have enough time to get this done. If we act fairly quickly, we could vote on it at your May meeting. And then there would be a remonstrance period. We have to do another notice in the paper, but as long as that remonstrance notice goes in the paper before May 31st, we're okay. I would tell you that if you do increase these two, it will make it very difficult to keep the levy total tax rate next year at the same level it's at now. It will probably have to go up next year unless you cut back somewhere heavy somewhere else. That's up to you guys, what you want to do. But, and actually, just because, I guess I should remind or say this too, just because you went up to the maximum doesn't mean you have to tax to the maximum. You can always do a levy that's less than that. So, you do have that flexibility. This just would give you the option to go higher if you wanted to. When it comes time to do the budget.
I would personally want to see the bridge program to see what are the shortfalls, what would an increase do.
I don't think anyone wants a tax increase, but we've also had a problem with the bridge funding. Several bridges have gone a long time without it because we've not had enough in the Cume Bridge Fund to fix them right away. So that would be the one I would hesitantly say okay to look at increasing, just because we've had trouble with that one.
At least take the next 30 days to look at it and see.
We come up with a recommendation.
Come up with a recommendation, yeah. I mean, I can't see maxing out on the thing, but at least we discuss it and maybe start working with the commissioners on putting a game plan together.
I think Commissioner Britton could probably take a look at that and come up with a spreadsheet or something to show what the long-term effects of current funding will be.
Well, right now we can't even fund one bridge a year with the amount we have in there.
Right.
We have at least one going out almost right now every year. So.
And I think that, of all the things that government does do with tax dollars, I think the public does expect those roads and bridges to be in good shape. It's the motoring public, safety and roadways are a priority.
Right.
In my opinion.
And I guess I know any time you hear a tax increase, but I mean, we are we're like 6 cents off of every 100 from being so we're talking pennies for every $100 of assessed value. I don't want people to think we're talking like
You're talking $6
dollars
or
on
something per 100,000, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, yeah, $60.
it would be
Per 100,000, $60.
yeah.
This
That would
may
be the
just go to-
maximum amount increase.
Just go to county bridges or state bridges?
County only, yeah, the state's totally separate. It's just, the reason they're all county bridges, whether the bridges are located within the county itself or within city limits of a large city or any size city or town, incorporated area. For whatever reason, the state and the federal government look at it, they want one source to deal with on the bridges, so that it all falls under the county's jurisdiction. And I really don't think that there's many bridges in the city of Clinton. I mean, there are some. Yes, Feather Creek mostly, and outside the city limits, maybe on North Main Street. I don't know if that's within the city limits or not, but there's not very many. Now in Terre Haute, for example, there's a bunch, quite a few, overpasses, all that kind of, those are $1 million plus structures. So it depends where you're at, but I think here, there's not very many in the city. But nonetheless, there are some.
I'm just amazed on how many wooden structures we have in this county, and that's what surprises me. And having seen a couple of them in the northern part of this county and crawled under them, I'm thinking, how are they still staying up?
I'd be happy to look at those with you. Actually, that's kind of a specialty.
I mean, but I'm just surprised.
It is.
You know, and I've hardly ever seen anything done to them, so.
Yeah, and there's actually,
now we've starting to see the failures.
well,
I'm
there's
thinking,
actually some things you can do that the local forces can do to those bridges to improve them for very little cost. I mean, almost free. And I could talk to the highway department about that sometime if they're, it's stuff you can do on rainy days, for example, that will improve those bridges and help them.
Is that cross at a walk or?
No. It's a covered bridge. You're thinking of covered. There's only one of those.
Yeah. All right.
So if we go to the max, that adds about $800,000 a year, right, on the bridge? Which
It would
would
add
be,
about 600 for the bridge.
Oh, that-
Or 560 or 570.
And I'm not advocating go
Bridge
to the
would
max,
go
but
From 340 to 960. If you just did the.
okay.
It would
So
go to
that's
960.
like 3 million a year saying that, right? Because we're talking 80-20.
Yeah, if you were able to leverage all that against grants. I don't know if they'd give us that much grant in a year.
Well, that's I think what Commissioner Yoakum's talking about with the 80-20 would be the federal aid projects through like West Central or something where you get into the program, the bridge program, and you get funding through the Federal Highway Administration, which funnels through NDOT.
Takes
To
about-
The
It
bridge
takes
is
a
working
long
on
time.
that though, right?
There's a lot of planning involved in those.
Yeah, and it in some ways costs more too.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
there's a
because
lot
you
more
have to have
overhead.
certain
Yeah,
types of inspection, oversight, engineering, all these other things.
They're good for the right bridges.
Yeah.
Some smaller bridges, they probably wouldn't get the right.
And some of your local bridges they're self-funded, you're better off just to hire a design build firm to come set one, and it's quicker and faster, and if you can afford it. It just depends. I mean, like Scott said, it depends on the site.
So, what I'm piecing together is that we will advertise, but not necessarily set a rate yet, and then have a further discussion at the May meeting to actually set the rate once it.
But you have to advertise the max rate.
You don't have
just
to
for-
advertise.
We could advertise like the 0.75 or the 0.1, like it would be 0.075, excuse me.
Yeah, do the max, see how people
Well, the
feel about
flex-
it.
Well, you can always come
and
to
all your comments.
If the public gets mad, you can always vote down.
I'd like to hear from people, how
No.
they feel about it,
So,
It'd be nice if there was more money created every week's budget, just saying, we got that coming in every year, but more that we could.
well, we tie your hands. That's the problem. We tie your hands when we don't have any money or spend it all.
And that's also kind of an issue of like, having a county engineer to manage a bridge program. That's where that person would come to the council every year and say, hey, this isn't working. I've reviewed all this. So it's the commissioner's responsibility ultimately, but if there's no one there to kind of do that, what if none of the three commissioners know anything about that? And fortunately, I think there's at least one. Tim, you know about construction work, as well. So, with that being said, I think that even a highway superintendent or something like that, like you talked about in the future, that could oversee or at least have knowledge of what's going on out there.
well, okay, so I need a motion then to advertise the rate. Okay.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Okay.
And do you want to just do bridge, or do you want to do, I just heard mostly talk about bridge, so, just clarify that. Because we can advertise CCD too, but if we don't advertise it here in the next week or two,
Personally, I think
it'll be too late.
my feelings is that the bridge is the biggest account to worry about right now,
Agreed.
but, I mean,
Is this rate not been raised for years, you said?
for years.
I don't know how many years, but
Quite a
it's been
while.
at least 4 or 5, I'd say, yeah,
Yeah.
and it may have been longer than that.
I don't remember doing it before.
Well, obviously, nobody wants their taxes raised, but
Mm.
you gotta fix these bridges.
Yeah.
They're starting to
I've got
go.
one on my house that's
Yeah,
got problems.
they're starting to go.
So is there a motion for a rate to advertise? Not necessarily set the rate, but just to advertise.
Advertise the max and
Okay,
decide next month
so, we'll,
on just the
Like I said, we
bridge.
could get with the commissioners, get with our bridge people, and try to come up with something that makes sense instead of just telling them, no, you know. I think the decision may ought to be made by why.
Yeah.
If we can do something that substantiates that, I think it makes more sense.
okay. So Kelly, is that a motion to
Yes,
advertise? Okay.
yes.
So I have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. I have a motion for Mr. Somerville, a second for Mr. Bose, to advertise the maximum rate of 0.10% for cumulative bridge fund. Is there any further discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Alright. Motion is approved.
Does the consultant for the bridge program get paid for with Cume Bridge, or is that out of some other professional service? Yeah.
Alright, the next item on the agenda is a resolution. And I realize we didn't have a lot of time to review this one, so this is one item that if anyone would like to take more time to understand, we can. Didn't
Yes,
know-
let's table that.
Okay. So is that a motion? To
Yes.
Table the resolution?
Yes.
I'll second that.
Okay. I have a motion for Mr. Weir, second for Mr. Costello to table the resolution for the general fund. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, state no. Okay. I think there's still some questions on that one. Costello.
I'm sorry, what?
Alright, so next we have Commissioner Yocum is here this evening to talk about a county engineer. Since you brought that up, Neil.
I want to say right up front, we've just about hiring a county engineer that's been fought for probably 3 years, I think. I know even before some of the state funding came out, that was one of the thoughts that we was entertaining. I know Neil made mention to some of the things that difference it can make, especially in bridge decisions. And I think a lot of times we're in the process of having one county highway supervisor over the entire county. And I think that it's a good move if possibly hire an engineer, a county engineer, and a countywide supervisor that can work and make decisions based on roads, approach it instead of us commissioners make decisions about what roads that need to be done. I think it needs to be, that decision is made by research and engineers' thoughts and the superintendent. But what I want to talk to you tonight about, we've talked about this several times, and like I said, it's been around for a couple of years. This last week we had a development that was positive in it. If you read your paperwork that you have, you'll see that the state appropriates or will fund any county $40,000 a year to pay toward a highway superintendent salary. And so the next thing we did, we're taking really, I think, to hire a engineer. It's got to be a PE also. I think the salary is probably with benefits going to be about $125,000. Okay, that's in my opinion, too much for our county. So, but anyway, so we've been working with Park County and with Jim Neese, and the state approved, I believe it was last year, that they said that if 2 counties came together to have an engineer and they wanted to split the time between the 2 counties, the state would provide that $40,000 that could be used together to fund that engineer part-time in each county. So when you look at this alone, you would have for 2 counties to get an engineer 50% of the time. The state's going to pay $80,000 toward that. Each county will be benefiting $40,000. That won't make enough to fund that type of job. So we're looking at probably $125,000 probably with benefits, you know.
I think you could do it for 100.
I'm just
Yeah.
saying a number here. And so what we would do if we did it at 100,000, the county would be responsible for $10,000 to have an engineer 50% of the time.
Sounds good.
Huh?
Sounds pretty good.
Yeah, it's a good deal. I mean, and also it's doing something that the state really likes, and I think the problem we have in county government is how do we work together with our neighbors? You know, Bible County, Park County, how do we partner with those counties to make things happen? And this is an excellent program, and it's like I said, you can see the information from the state there. I believe it was last Thursday, Jim Neese and I went to LTAP in Purdue in Lafayette and met with them to discuss this. Everything was very positive. We got another meeting coming up where they're bringing 2 other counties up that are doing this now, and we're going to meet with them. And so what we're trying to do, we're trying to figure out everything that's being done so we can figure out, you know, how this can work. And the other thing is, I'm trying to let you all know what we're trying to do. I don't want to come here and tell you we made this decision and we want X. I'm just saying this is the direction that we're trying to go. And if we have an engineer 50% of the time and it costs you $20,000 a year, the amount of money that will be saved is probably in the millions. I mean, truthfully, I mean, that is a possibility of savings of our different plans and doing different things and find different funding. And so I don't see where we can lose on this. But everything we do has to be very well laid out. You know, he's here 1 week and over there. You know, that all has to be very plain. And then we have to have an interlocal agreement to make it happen. But I think it's a great idea. And again, many times commissioners make decisions on roads, and I'd like to get away from that. I know it'd be our ultimate decision, even if an engineer's there, we could still overrule, but I would much rather see someone from an engineering standpoint look at our roads and say, this is a priority here, 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 and this is the reason. And I think they bring that technical aspect to it that's needed in this type of decision making. So that's where we're at on that. So what I'm going to say is when is the budget's got to be, that number's got to be in?
By the end of June.
By when?
Yeah, your budget has to get back to us by June 1st.
Okay. So what I'm probably going to be looking at after talking with LTAP and also with Jim Neese Park County, we'll come up with some type of a figure. You know, it might be 100,000, it might be 120,000. I don't know. I mean, right now engineers are hard to get. They are very hard to get, and I think it would be a tremendous benefit for the county. And also with the other thing we're looking at is putting a highway superintendent over the entire county, all 3 garages, so that the flow of communication can be better. He can make good decisions, and I think putting those 2 together will make a big difference. A part-time engineer and a full-time highway superintendent over the whole county, because he can coordinate things better, you know, and I think it's a big thing. The other thing I want to ask about, so I'm just saying that the way it looks now, it'd probably be a $20,000 or $25,000 a year commitment. And that's my personal opinion, that I would probably come back to to put in a budget as a possibility of getting that funding for next year. The other thing we have is as someone mentioned, my highway superintendent got a new job, so that's a vacancy there, and we're getting ready to fill that. The second thing is we had a resignation, a retirement of our highway clerk. That position there is open now, and Brenda and Kylie's been working on it, taking care of that paperwork and all that flow of it, and they've been trying to streamline it. Did I say the words right, Brenda? Mm-hmm. And we're trying to make things more modern in each one of our garages. We'd like to have it so when people come in, they fill out their time card online. A lot of stuff is really slow because it's not up to the speed of technology today. And so we think by doing some of the changes in those departments that we can streamline this and make it work more quicker, better. And then the second question I have is with that, there's roughly $40,000, that's a $40,000 salary, right, Brenda? 39. Do we have any, for us to create this highway superintendent job now, we would have to come to you guys for a new position, right?
Yeah, like,
They can create the position, but you would have to create the salary.
yeah, you'd have to, in order to increase the salary, we do have to do the salary ordinance, but you're saying create like a whole new job description.
Yes, it could be a whole new different job.
Yeah, and then you would have only 2 remaining of the supervisors and 1 superintendent.
You still have 3, you still have, just the way it is, but you'll have 1 highway superintendent over all 3 garages.
So you're still gonna have 3 superintendents, so then, yeah, you would have to come provide additional funding on that.
Well, here's my question. With the availability of the funds of that position vacated, can that funds be used toward, I'm saying that if that funds are there, right, you appropriated for this year for the $40,000 that thing, can we take and use those types of funds by changing them to a different fund or whatever to go ahead and fund that for the rest of the year?
You would have to request a transfer for the funds to be to that new position.
But I'm saying that if I'm not asking for more money, I'm just asking to move the money from one place to the other to
It's
make
still,
that.
you still have to have a transfer on it.
What?
You'll have to have a transfer because it's in
Okay.
a specific line for the
But I'm
position.
saying to be a simpler thing other than asking for more money. Right.
Is there still talk of closing
Yeah.
one of the garages or not?
Close one?
One of the garages?
No, we're not looking at that.
That's-
Tim, what we talked about at the commissioners meeting that I was at was having one of the existing, that was before someone resigned at your garage, but there were 3 supervisors
Right.
at each of 3 garages.
One at each garage.
Yeah, and one of them could possibly be promoted to a superintendent on the highway, and the other would be assistants. And that all 3 of them would no longer have just an area or a district. The entire county would be the district. So the superintendent or the 2 assistants could go anywhere in the county to do any supervision or oversee any type of project, and that the garages, all 3 would remain as is, as places for the employees to stage the trucks and equipment, aggregate, salt and sand and whatnot. But additionally, those garages, they could all 3 go completely to the north end of the county to do a job or something. It just, the positioning of the garages is irrelevant at that point. So you have a superintendent, 2 assistants, their areas of the county, and all 3 garages could go anywhere in the county that they're needed and assigned to.
Right.
And the assistants could go to either end of the county. You could take turns once or stay in one end, whatever.
Yep.
But that was kind of the thing, was to not add a new position and still maintain 3. You know, you wouldn't really need a 3rd supervisor. That was just kind of the discussion we had at the commissioners meeting as one of the ways that could proceed without adding a new position. And so therefore it became, you know, obviously one of the 3 gets promoted and they would need an increase in salary. So that's kind of where we're at.
And that's what I was wondering, could that be done if we just came and created a position and maybe took some of that funding from the other position and used it over this position, and it really didn't make no difference in the budget?
You can transfer it, but we'll still have to you'll still have to vote on the salary ordinance to increase it. But if you're creating a whole new position, then, I mean, that'll be an increase in the budget. Or if you're just taking the 3 and then bumping one of those positions up, that is an easier move than creating a whole new fund for another 4th position.
And the reasoning for doing is to save money, or this would save money? Because what
Well-
we're doing, I mean, our highway department does a pretty good job.
Oh,
now.
yeah, it does a good job.
Compared to other counties, I hear complaints, and ours, I mean, do a very good job, so I didn't know what we're trying to change to fix.
The thing we're trying to do is trying to figure out how we can utilize everybody on all the equipment, you know, and if you have someone, I know what Britt wants to do, and it's all for the good and to save the county money, but if you have a highway superintendent come in now and let him work there a year, let him see what he can do, let him see how much he can coordinate, and that feedback would be more than better than any, once you make a decision, hard to bring it back, but get someone, a highway superintendent, get a county engineer together, let them see what they can do. Let that feedback come back. Let's see what they recommend. And so I'm not in favor of doing this, you know, to stop anything. I mean, we can do better, but our county highway, we got the best. I say it all the time. We got the best roads probably of any county around here. We've done very well.
Yeah.
But still, we can improve.
Are you currently sharing the equipment?
Yeah, somewhat.
Somewhat.
Yeah. When
I
they
thought
need
that
it.
was one of his
Yeah, that
things.
was one of the issues we talked about too, was that you have, you know, 3 garages and they have independent leases for the same types of equipment, say, is that the way I understood it? So if the Northern Garage District 3 has a road grader, they have a completely separate lease, unique to that garage, for that road grader, and that's theirs to use only in that district, which is odd.
Yeah, it is.
If another district has the same equipment, the same lease, or different, it'd be different contract. If their lease expires or runs out of time and hours on the equipment, then they're paying additional money to run that equipment for the remainder of the lease term, versus just using the one to switch in them, and they're saying, you know, you can't use ours, that's ours for this garage. You know, that's the problem I have with it. That's a complete waste of money to have equipment that can't be transferred, and it's all the same equipment to the county highway department, and that's where I see a savings, and just the county superintendent would negotiate a lease, and that equipment will go anywhere in the county where it's needed.
Would that happen?
What?
It would have
Would
to
that
happen.
happen if you hired a guy?
Oh, yeah,
and
it's
start
going to happen.
sharing everything?
It's going to happen. And that's the thing is,
Well-
it's not only a highway superintendent, it's an engineer too. I mean, them two working together will make a humongous difference. It really
I think your engineers, you know, it's going to be more of a budgetary program management type person. Your superintendent's going to be the day-to-day operations person that you guys go to as commissioners, you know, and get your daily reports, or your every 2 weeks whenever you have a meeting, this person's going to be at your meetings telling you all you need to know about what's going on. That one sole person who knows everything about every road in the county, versus now there's not one person in charge of it.
So I'm just trying to give you a rundown of what's going on, give you the information, so
So-
we...
Yeah, not to interrupt you, but if you come back with a plan for that remaining salary amount, if it's just a transfer of money and not additional money, we don't have to advertise the transfers. But then if you need additional money that's above what's in the account now, it will have to be advertised at least, 10 days before.
I mean, we could end up doing that for the rest of the year, but then put in the budget for the other part next year. I think Brenda and I looked up the salaries of the counties that have a superintendent, and we averaged it out, and it was 58,000. So we're not throwing a figure out here. We've looked it up based
So,
on.
if the commissioners come up with their plan, just bring it back to us, and then whatever position though, we'll have to have a new salary ordinance, so you'll have to bring that as well with your request.
Okay, is there any questions on this highway engineer? I mean, do you see any problem with it?
No.
I mean, really, do you see a problem with it?
No.
I mean, from a budget standpoint and the value of it, I think is...
It has been something we've kicked around at budget hearings and different things for the past several years. I mean, it's just never, I think, gotten far enough to do anything with, so.
That person will be in this room during budget hearings, just explaining the highway department's budget and the bridge budget and grants, administration of highway grants. He or she would be the one person who's the liaison with the state for community crossing grants and whatnot. That's an important role too.
Okay.
This is Rick's opinion, but I think myself as a taxpayer, what I'm looking for from, I'll say, the county officials, are flexibility and adaptability and responsibility of the budget. So wherever we can accomplish things where we save money here, but have money over here for bridges, let's say, and still be able to balance the budget the best we can. That's what we need to be doing. So, I mean, we got to look at the big picture. And the big picture is trying to save money where we can, but spend it wisely where we do. So.
And one of the other savings points of a county engineer too would be, the county probably pays consultant fees for multiple different things, like the asset management or the road inspections for, in order to get a community crossing grant, you have to have your inventory of roads inspected. So the county engineer can oversee that and self-perform those types of things, which can save more than that person's, whatever our outlay is for that portion of the salary, $10,000. So you can, that in 1 year, that can easily, be 10 times in savings with just not having to hire consultants to do everything you.
It's not a savings of tens of thousands, it's savings of millions.
It could be.
Over time, yeah.
Over time.
I mean, you can make, one thing, 1 year can make $1 million difference. I mean, one project, that they got.
Find those monies out there.
So some of the things that you guys are proposing, I see as cost savings for the county, and that gives us more money to put other places. And I think those are things we need to be considering and doing if we can. So I think you're headed in the right direction.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next on our new business, we have Sheriff Holcamp here this evening with his firearms fund. And you also have the civil wage processing.
Yeah, I got two quick questions.
Yep.
Yeah. I have around $2,500 that I would like to put into our firearms fund. This is money that come from Sheriff Phelps had an agreement last fall with the commissioners. We had some firearms that were issued to the deputies and reserve deputies that were getting outdated. We got prices from dealers what we were going to get for trade-in. Instead of trading them in, we give the option to the guys to buy them back. So that's the money that we've got. The guys bought their issued firearms. So I would like to take that $2,500, put it in our firearms account, so here in the very near future, when I start looking at buying new guns, I've got that money there.
Okay. If you have that total and get it to Brenda, she can give us the appropriation and we'll
Okay.
appropriate it into the account.
Okay.
If everyone's good with that?
Mm-hmm.
Any problems? Okay. It'll have to go on as an additional appropriation.
Okay.
But it's just the process.
Sure.
Anytime we get like a insurance reimbursement check, we still have to do an additional appropriation, put it back
I think
in.
it's $2,500, but I'll check tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that it on that one?
That's it. That's all I
That's
got
an
on
easy
that
one.
yeah.
Woo!
And then the other issue I wanted to bring up was I have my civil processing papers are stacking up. I mean, we have that's divorce papers, small claims, people getting sued, many different reasons why we would have them, but I don't have anybody right now serving them. It was paying $10 an hour, and I think at one point it went to 13, and I think now it's at 17. Correct? I'm having a hard time getting anybody to come do it for $17 an hour because they can go work the courthouse or the schools for more money or the hospitals. So I would like to increase that to $20 an hour, and I think maybe I have somebody interested that would do that for me. I have the deputies that's trying to do it now between calls and other responsibilities, trying to get them served, but they're starting to stack up, so I need to get them served as quick.
So you're not asking for an increase in the actual budget? You
No,
just
just want to increase the hourly
actual
rate, yeah.
Okay.
I think there's 15,000.
You just want to use that, use that same money, but
Yeah,
just pay
yeah.
more.
And it's a part-time position.
Yeah, exactly.
There is an amended salary schedule for that one to change the hourly increase to 20. So, and then the salary schedule changes also need motions and seconds for each of those. If that's something that you wish to.
So you need a motion for that?
Yep.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for Mr. Brown, a second for Mr. Weir to amend the salary schedule for the civil processing to increase it to $20 an hour. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed state no. All right, motion is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we have one other salary ordinance item. You have another amendment in your packet. This was the area planning and zoning director that we discussed at the last meeting. It is going to be one line, so it says $5,800 added to the annual salary increase. That is because before we've had it split out in different lines. This time it will be one line only for a total of 42,500. So it's not, I don't think that's an increase of anything, actually. It's just that we're putting it in one line instead of multiple lines.
Three.
Three what?
It takes care of 3 positions, or?
It won't be the building inspector, but it'll be zoning, floodplain, and they'll do the papers for the permits, or they'll do the paperwork, but not actually the actual inspection.
Inspections,
Mhm.
right.
That would be Mr. Yocum does that.
And we're talking about maybe
Currently.
raising them permits up a
Yeah,
little somehow.
I don't know
or
where
something.
the commissioners are at on that, but this is for the salary part that we discussed with,
Right.
APC last time. So. Do I have a motion for that one?
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
Okay. I have a motion for Mr. Somerville, a second for Mr. Bose. Is there any further discussion? Motion is to set the area planning and zoning director at a salary of 42,500. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed state no. All right, motion is approved. All right, and that is the last thing I have on our agenda. Is there any public comment this evening? Any other comments? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn then.
I'll make a motion.
We got a motion and a second. All right. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.